So, in verse 4, it talks about being interested in others and in caring about others and not only finding interest in yourself. So, Aspen, do you want to kind of expand on that?
Yeah, well, I think way too often we focus on either parts of a verse or a command, or we will turn something that is an active command into a passive command. So, for example, let's take the verse of like, treat others as you would want to be treated. We take that and we flip it to be like, well, I wouldn't want to be bullied, so I'm not going to bully someone else. And I don't have to interact with that person. I don't have to do anything. But as long as I'm not bullying them, I'm treating them the way that I would want to be treated. That's not how it goes. That's not what it's saying. It's not saying be passive. Don't not treat others the way, whatever, you wouldn't want to be treated. That kind of got wordy. But it's saying like, no, actually go out, be active, and treat that person the way that you would want to be treated. So you actually have to have a conversation with them. You actually have to do something. You have to actively love them. And that's what this verse is saying is don't be selfish. I skipped back. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. So yes, that part of like, okay, now don't focus on just yourself, but actually ask someone, hey, how's life been lately? Hey, how's that job you just started? Like, ask prompting questions. When someone's telling you about their life, don't tune them out and start thinking about what you're going to say next. Don't think about how you can walk away from the conversation. Internalize what they're saying, process it, remember it, and check up on them a couple months later, a couple weeks later. If someone tells you, hey, like, my boyfriend is going in for surgery on Thursday, then you need to remember that. As their friend, you need to, and if you are bad at remembering things, you need to write it in your calendar, pull out your phone while they're talking, that's fine. Write down, Matt's going in for surgery on Thursday. He's not, but if he is.
I didn't know about
And then on Thursday, text Alexa and say, hey, just so you know, I've been praying for you this morning. Actually pray for them. Don't just say that you're praying for them. Actually pray for them. What do you think? I'm like, do you have anything to add to that? What do you take away from that verse?
Aspen, you're really good at that, right? And so you're like, I mean, I could name literally multiple instances where you've done just that. So when you're talking about it, for anybody that's watching this, you can trust that that's actually coming from someone that does that. For me, that's actually a little bit harder. So I was somebody in the past, I'd like to think I'm better now, but wouldn't remember things or would kind of just hear it and then, pray once about it and then not pray about it again. And so that's actually very real. And so with this, taking interest in others doesn't sound like a skill, but it actually is. And it's something that can be practiced. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, if you're compassionate, shouldn't you just care about others? Shouldn't you just be interested? And it's not that you don't care, is that you're not intentional, or that I was not intentional. And so almost in the way that you work out your muscles at the gym, this is another thing that you're just going to have to work out, and you're going to have to consistently have it at the forefront of your mind, like when your friend does say something, to keep up with it. And I love how you said, like, don't be thinking about other things when people are talking to you. Really, that goes back to being selfish, because you're here, and it also goes back to serving others before yourself. You really are here to serve others. Like, that really is the main objective. And so see yourself serving others, not only like physically, but also in listening, is like super huge. All right, so you want to kind of hop in a little bit after that, kind of how I practiced in the beginning, verses like 5 through 11 are kind of Jesus' example. Yeah,
we have verses 5 through 11, which are like literally one of the biggest parts of the New Testament. I would say that this is huge theology-wise about like giving us insight into what Jesus incarnate actually, like God incarnate as Jesus actually is. Like where we see, though he was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up some of his divine privileges. Like, those wordings, those phrases are really giving us insight into what the incarnation as doctrine is. And so we have people who are on both sides of, like, sometimes you swing the pendulum to, like, oh, Jesus wasn't man. He's fully God. Like, he is God on earth. And then we have other people who are like, dude, he ain't God. He's just a man, like, whatever. But really, what we've come to is Jesus was 100% God and 100% human. And the two have to be married in order for salvation to work. Yeah. In order for Jesus' death on the cross to mean anything, he has to be both.
Yeah.
So what did you read from that? What did you get from that?
This is something that could easily be skipped over. I feel like when you first come to the faith, this is not something that you would read when you first come. Like, I feel like this is something that's a lot deeper. Though he was not God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to, as something to brag about, something that should really hit home for everybody that's reading this part of Scripture, is that he came from the most perfect place. Yeah. And where he was being, praised, and glory was just, and everybody's just, it's all about him. To then it's like, he came down with potentially people not having anything to do with him. Yeah. That's, like, huge. And he didn't come as a king. That should be something that hits home. He didn't come as royalty. He came as a carpenter. Here it says he came as a slave. Other versions he came as a servant. But either way, that should mean something. How he came is important. And to know that, because it gives you a whole new respect for who Jesus is, and it gives you a whole new intel into what God's character is, how he was sent. That's super important. And so for me, when I read that, that's very humbling to know that he's the most important person to ever have come to the earth, but he came as a servant.
So we see in verse 13, for God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. Now this is such a good verse, and it can be taken so far in the context of, oh, God's so sovereign that we're just robots doing whatever he wants us to do. Like, no. We still have free will. This isn't saying we are God's little puppets. Yeah. No, God gave us free will. But God is working in you. He started that good work in you that we talked about on this past Monday night. And he's giving you this desire and the power to do what pleases him. We can do nothing without God actually drawing us to him first. Yeah. And I've seen this verse, I pray this verse all the time over myself and over other people. And I was at school and I actually prayed over a student who was being extremely disobedient, extremely disrespectful. And he was not doing what he was supposed to. And in my head, I literally just prayed over him. I said, Lord, give him the desire and the will to do what pleases you, because I know God wills for him to be obedient. And so God, give him that desire, give him that will. The second that I prayed, literally I walked away. 2 minutes later, he was like, I decided that I actually want to do what I'm supposed to be doing. Can I have my computer back and I'm going to do my work? Wow. Homeboy sat on the computer and did his work literally perfectly the rest of the time that I was with him. That's and awesome. He had not listened to a single thing that I said up until that point. This verse is powerful. Those people in your life who you feel just why? They just have no desire to follow God at all. Pray that over them. Yeah. God, give them the desire and the will to do what pleases you.
That's so good. That's so good. It's supernatural. Like you're saying, this is something that can happen in a moment. If you know, and so that's so good, Aspen. I feel like that's a really good place to leave off. Yeah. We didn't quite get into everything, but it's okay. You got to unpack that now. Yeah. Read Philippians 2 this week. Let us know how it goes in the comments. Leave us a just synopsis of what you learned, what you read. I don't know, that's a kind of a big word. Coming from teachers, leave us a synopsis.
Yes. We'd actually like an essay reflection on what you learned.
Yeah, American Standard Formatting.
Yeah, APA, let's go. We'll see you guys on Monday night at 7:30. See you later.